You are tuned to Kennett, Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
What better thing could a city have than a group of men who are working not for their own interest, but for the interest of the town in which they live? It speaks a lot for the men who do this, and you see pictures on the wall behind me of just such men who have come into this area, who were born in this area many times, and who work for the betterment of this community. Tonight, you see the picture of this gentleman on the wall. He's Michael Mower, and he's sitting here as big as life right in this boardroom. You were president in what year was it?
1987.
All right. Now, before we talk about what went on in your term of office, tell us a little bit about the background. You're not Kennett born and bred.
No, I came from northern Missouri originally. My first visit to Kennett was in August of 1976.
Now, what was the occasion?
I was looking for a job.
Oh, okay.
I was in my last year of law school and looking for a job with a law firm. Wanted to practice in a rural country area, and there was a job available, and I came to see if I was interested and if they were interested in me.
And you've been here ever since?
Well, left in August and then came back in March of 77 after I got out of law school.
Okay, all right. So you came from law school to Kennett from northern Missouri. Was it a lot different? What about where in northern Missouri? Was it farm economy?
It's a rural farm area, the so-called Green Hills area of northern part of the state.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, it's very similar. The major difference is the topography.
It's rolling.
We missed the hills initially,
okay,
but we find the people very similar to both Gene and I grew up in the same hometown, and we find Kennett very similar to it.
Okay, and she's teaching, presently teaching?
She's a librarian at high school.
Okay. All right, now, so you came, you finished law school and came here. Did you get in the Chamber of Commerce immediately?
I think it was almost immediately between John Dalton, Harold Treasurer, and I remember A.M. Riggs not giving me much choice about that.
I see. So they really pressured you to get into the chamber.
Right.
All right. And then you came in 77, and you were president in 87. So I'd say they did good in getting you to come into the chamber.
Well, it was enjoyable working with the chamber in the early years and learning about the community and about the people, and a little bit about the history of how Kennett got to be what it is. Okay.
Now, we are interested in what you would like to recall about your years in the chamber, the changes you have seen, anything that went on. What is there any one thing that's outstanding in your mind about your year as president?
I guess in looking back on 87, and I'll have to admit I had to go back to the files to refresh my recollection, the Shell building was actually put under contract and started in 1987. Now, from the standpoint of the idea and the planning, it had been an idea for several years, and there had been a lot of planning go on before 1987. But 87 was the year that the structure actually took place on the industrial park area.
Now, knowing that you have a building like that going up, do you begin immediately to say to some, did you contact industries and say, we are building a building? What went on?
I did very little of that personally. Charles Brown was the Economic Development Committee chairman at that time. He and Larry Thomason, the then executive director,
that's right, he
worked hard on that. And that was probably the most encouraging thing, was the cooperation that we saw between the city, then Mayor Karsten, the City Council, your County Commission, the Chamber of Commerce, the Board of Public Works, your 4 financial institutions in town. At that time it was Centerra Bank, Cotton Exchange Bank, Southern Missouri Savings and Loan, and Kennett National Bank, all worked together, and through their efforts of issuing letters of credit, we were able to finance the building using a short-term loan from the state, backed up by these letters of credit that came from the 4 financial institutions. That kind of cooperation was really essential and really encouraging that you had that in the community.
Yes, and I didn't even realize that had to be to get something like this, that the financial institutions had to give letters of credit. You mean they sort of stood good for the debt?
They ended up doing more than standing good because the state money had to be paid back, and I believe it was in 90 or 91. That money actually was paid back, and your 4 local financial institutions at that time actually did more than stand good. They had a loan on it.
Oh, I see. Okay. All right. All right. So the shell building became a reality, and even though it was not occupied for several years, it was here. It was something to show. It was a selling point for Kennett, wasn't it?
It's kind of a good piece of bait in the economic development world. If you have an existing structure, the economic development folks say you get many more site visits from prospective industrial prospects than if you just got an empty piece of land. And I think that proved true with our building, and it did remain unoccupied for several years. It brought several visitors to look, and some successful visits. ARI, of course, needed a different type of facility. They are on the industrial park, and I think through no small part of the shell building being there, letting them know that we had a building available and land available.
Okay, now you know what flashes into my mind just now that I remember you doing. I remember you standing up in the high school gym and promoting a bond issue for the good of the school. Do you remember doing that?
I remember that, and that was
I don't know what year.
Fun. I don't remember what year it was either, but it did. The people passed the bond issue, and really made a difference in our public school system.
All right, now let me pick your brains some more. What else? What other things do you recall highlighting your years?
Well, the cooperation between the chamber and the school has been something that's been interesting to watch over the years. And in '87, Lanise Bias, who was Lynn Bias's mother,
I remember.
I think John Dalton saw an article in the Commercial Appeal, and she was contacted through John and the chamber and John McMullen, who was then superintendent, and between the school and the chamber and private donations, she came to Kennett and gave really a series of presentations on drug awareness, self-esteem to both students in schools and to the community.
Oh, I remember her. We covered this, and she was, if we have a little bit of that, we'll show you, but she was outstanding.
She was very impressive.
Yes, she was. All right, go from school bonds and Lanise Bias and the school activities. What else?
Looking back through the minutes of 1987 from the board of directors of the chamber, one thing that happened in August was the chamber board had received word that the Teamsters were going to conduct a union election at UARCO. The chamber board voted unanimously to put the chamber's effort behind opposing that election. And the election was late September, and the union was not certified.
Okay, now that was, so the union was not certified in '87.
That's correct.
But we didn't have the same luck in '97, did we?
It changed.
It changed in '97, and everybody's aware of that history.
Right. One thing that I noticed in the minutes also was in December, the last meeting of that board of that year, Larry Thomason, who'd been director of the chamber since, I believe, '83, sought the blessings of the board for him to go and seek the legislative seat for the 163rd District. And he, in fact, got the blessing, and apparently enough votes, because that's what he's been doing since '88.
Yeah. So the board helped Larry in his campaign initially. Has Larry helped the board, would you say?
We let Larry go in campaign, and certainly Larry has been most helpful to the chamber and the entire area as a representative, particularly having the background of having been a chamber executive director and directly involved in economic development. He understands from experience the needs of a community like Kennett in getting assistance to do effective economic development. And looking at the annual banquet program from February the 24th, 1987, one of the highlights on the program that night was I had the opportunity to present an award of merit from the Chamber of Commerce to A.M. Dolph Riggs. That was a particular pleasure of mine.
Okay, now Dolph was president. I don't know if you can get it because he's way in the corner. He was president, what year? Must have been '83 because he's right after Larry Jones.
Of course, Mr. Riggs is no longer with us, but those of us who had the opportunity to know him and to care about Kennett know that he made a strong impact in many ways in Kennett. You can go all the way back, and I think things we mentioned at the presentation of the Award of Merit was his involvement in establishing the Board of Public Works, which is certainly a strong point in Kennett. The very building we're sitting in, he helped raise financing for. The land that this building is sitting on at one time belonged to the American Legion, which Dolph was very active in. The development of the airport, the Kennett Country Club, that land was Legion land. Dolph and others were certainly visionary immediately after World War II in doing some things that we're still seeing the benefits from.
All right. Now, does the chamber board get together and come up with the nominee for this award?
Yeah, no, it's not an annual award.
Well, I was trying to rack my brain. Did I remember one for this year?
I think we stated at that time it is periodically presented to individuals.
Okay. And he well deserves this thing.
Certainly.
Do you continue to participate in board activities?
Not directly at this time. Annual dues and participate in some chamber functions. One that I enjoy is the annual golf outing that we participate in.
Yes.
The president of the chamber serves on the board for a year after the term of office, and as you look at the pictures around this room and you look at the current board, you see that Kennett has a continuing crop of folks that are interested, concerned, and dedicated about where the city is going. And you don't have to stay involved because there are others that are there that bring new ideas.
Right, and willing to give time and energy. That's right. Now, don't I know that you are also a municipal judge now, in addition
I
to...
put that hat on once a week.
All right. Is that quite a task?
It's enjoyable, a bit frustrating at times, but I considered it really an honor to be able to fulfill that role.
Taking you back with Michael Mower to 1987 when he was president of this Kennett Chamber of Commerce. And thank you very much for coming out and bringing all these notes and reminiscing with us.
Thanks for asking.